Hi there, my name is Toby and today I want to try and explain to you sound and energy in terms of the ether. Now, I've talked about this many times before. Energy is really just a disturbance in the ether. Now, the ether actually means rest, inertia, stillness. It's stationary. But in that stillness, there is infinite potential energy. It's not actually energy, it's only potential energy. So you have to get into that potential. And you do that by creating a disturbance, a divergence. You have to separate out a point. It diverges from a point. The simplest way we can look at this is a battery. A battery, there are 2 points, the anode and the cathode, and electricity will run between those 2 points. But they have to be separate, 2 positions. And really the electricity is going to disappear to the middle, a point in the middle, across the wire. So you have to it's going back to the ether to rest. So the ether must diverge from a point. That's a potential energy, a limited potential. It's limited by geometry, a distance. So the ether in itself is unlimited, but within that you create these limited potentials, a divergence of a point. Now, if that divergence is changing, if that potential energy is changing, it's moving. Now you've got a vibration, and a vibration is sound. So really you could say a disturbance of the ether is sound. That's what it is. Now you can have a static divergence, that's just stationary, like a battery. So that is still just the ether, it is static, nothing happened. So that is not sound. That is silence. So the ether in of itself is silence, stillness, static. But when you have a disturbance, a divergence, that is sound. So once that battery is released, you've got movement, now you have sound. Now it's not quite as simple as that, because the movement of ether, electricity, is a movement of pressure within the ether. That in itself is not sound. That is just the ether propagating, moving along. But if you have a vibrating potential, a changing potential, now that is sound. But you have to create this vibration. For example, if you had a battery, say you had a 10-volt battery, but you could change the 10-volt battery into a 5-volt battery. So you had 10-volt, 5-volt, 10-volt, 5-volt. Now you are changing the potential. The potential itself is static. And if that were just to release all by itself, that is still just the ether moving. That's the ether releasing itself in one go. So that's not a frequency. That's just propagation of pressure in a fluid. So the ether, remember, is fluid. You have to create a vibration in fluid. So 10-volt battery, 5-volt battery, 10-volt, 5-volt, 10-volt, 5-volt, that is vibrating. Now you are creating sound. That would be sound in electricity. So for example, an AC generator. The AC current we've got is vibrating electricity. That is sound. So the AC current is emitting sound. That sound is going out, propagating out. That's why we are affected by AC current. It's a frequency applied to electricity. And remember, electricity creates magnetism, so you will have, again, a vibrating magnetic field, and that again is sound. You see, it's interesting, sound itself creates the same geometry. Sound is like light, it just propagates outwards, and it will propagate outwards spherically. So it has a geometry. The fundamental geometry of all disturbance is going to be spherical. But within that sphere, okay, it's broken down into two things. It's broken down into a donut, a torus, and then inside the torus you've got two paraboloids, or hyperboloids. I think it's hyperboloids. Two little cone shapes. So you have a donut and you have a cone. But when you put these together, it becomes a sphere. That's a ball. So sound will also create this donut shape, the same as a magnetic field. But a magnetic field is created by sound in electricity. It's moving electricity. So for example, in an atom, as I've explained before, an atom has got electricity spinning in a circle. And magnetism is a turbulence created by moving electricity. So it will create a turbulence perpendicular to this little current of electricity, and you will have a donut-shaped magnetic field. But it has a frequency. It's moving because the electricity is spinning round and round and round. So that is creating sound. So now you have a static magnetic field, or rather a continuous sound that is vibrating and holding this magnetic field. It's a bubble of sound, and it's projecting outwards. Off it goes, off to infinity. The magnetic field is infinite, it goes off. It's the same as sound. Now, you have to look at it in terms of the ether. Different levels, different densities of the ether. This is pure fluid. The highest level is still spiritual. The ether is spirit. Now that is not physical, metaphysical. Has no physical properties. But spirit creates the soul, which is thought energy. Thinking. Now, thinking is still a disturbance within spirit. Thinking is still sound. You're creating a disturbance, but it's sound, it's a vibration inside thought energy. Thought energy is the same as light, same as everything. It just projects outwards. But thought energy is instantaneous because it's not physical. And thought energy is the very creation of space. You create geometry with thought energy. Sound. See, sound creates geometry, but thought energy is sound. But it's not physical sound. It's still on a spiritual level. That will condenses inwards into etheric energy. Remember, the ether works in spirals. There are condensing spirals and there are expanding spirals. So this ether, thought energy, will condense down one of these spirals. Thought energy condenses into etheric energy. Etheric energy is still spiritual. It's emotional energy. It's the soul. It's still soul energy. But the soul energy, thinking and feeling, is creating a disturbance. That's a vibrating potential in the etheric energy. Emotions. Emotions are a potential. They want to release. They're a dynamic. Remember, emotions want to go back to rest. Desire is a potential energy. But when that desire is fulfilled, you've got satisfaction. You're back to rest. The ether. So turbulence, disturbance in the etheric energy is sound. The soul energy is still sound. It means when we're thinking and when we're feeling, we're making a lot of noise. And it's propagating outwards. Our thoughts are sound. But it can only be picked up at the level of thought. So it's only telepathic. It has no physical properties. Same with emotions. They picked up emotionally. They're not picked up physically. It's still sound. Now that will condense further. After etheric energy, we have light energy. Light is becoming physical. Now this is becoming objective. Here's the crossover from metaphysics to physics. Once etheric energy condenses into light energy, we have crossed over into objective reality. Now we're in physics. It means the ether is now dense enough that we can all perceive it in the same way. So light energy we can detect physically, but lots of different levels, different densities of light energy. Now the soul, the etheric body, can create this light. A very powerful soul will also be emitting light, but again very subtle light. We're talking more like radio waves. Very subtle light, hard to detect. But sometimes it will condense, and consciousness, the soul, actually creates a light body. Now really the first light body a soul creates is a ball, an orb, a bubble of light. You can think of that as a soul body. And you have all these psychic experiences. We see orbs, psychic orbs, that you can photograph them. I've got photographs of these orbs. I've taken some. It's subtle light. It's becoming light. Etheric energy condensing into light. It's nearly physical. Not quite. Now again, science cannot understand this. Science only understands light that is emitted from atoms, which I'm coming to. But this is light emitted directly from etheric energy. It's condensing etheric energy, consciousness, a soul. So that still is noise, it's sound. It's a vibration of consciousness at the level of light energy. So that is also propagating outwards like sound. It creates a geometry. Now that condenses further. Once that condenses further, it becomes electricity. Now that's very powerful, which I've talked about. So you have an alternating electric current that creates this vibrating sound in electricity. But that is now very, very dense. It's objective. That is physics. That is technology. We have to create that. You see, we don't have electricity like that just everywhere. You know, we'll be getting electric shocks all the time. I mean, you have it in a thunderstorm, powerful electrostatics build up. So it has to be created. Electricity has to be condensed. It's very dense ether. It comes when the ether is moving and condensing. So we have to create it. And it appears between 2 points, like a battery. We have to create this dynamic, 2 points. And then, very powerful dynamic, allow it to release. We've got electricity. And that condenses further into plasma. Same with plasma. But plasma really requires electricity. It requires this potential. If you put an electric potential across a gas, you create a plasma. And again, you can have a vibrating potential, which will create this vibrating plasma. In a vibrating plasma, you're going to create this geometry. It's sound. Sound is in plasma. But in plasma, in vibrating plasma, you will also create these little vibrating bubbles. And these are atoms. Now in plasma, and all these things, you'll have it, it's three-dimensional geometry, sound, vibrating potential in the ether at a different density. So vibrating plasma, you're going to have cymatics, these three-dimensional patterns. Different frequencies of this vibration, different harmonics, create these different cymatic three-dimensional shapes. It's sound, everything. But sound is just a disturbance of the ether, and it happens on all these different levels. So you have cymatics in thought energy, cymatics in etheric energy, cymatics you will have in light, cymatics you will have in electricity. Again, difficult. You will see it more in plasma. Very powerful electricity. You will have cymatics. You have ball lightning. That is a simple cymatic in plasma. But inside you'll have atoms, tiny cymatics. And now you have different atoms, different sized cymatics in plasma, vibrating sound. So every atom is a little bubble of sound, vibrating, but it is trapped. Remember, it's a bubble. It's trapped in this bubble. So now we've got atoms. Once you've got atoms, now we have material substance. And the whole thing now starts again. You have got a gas. Then that gas will condense into a liquid. And that liquid will condense into a solid. And the solid will condense into a crystal. So you have different states of matter. And you can have sound in each one. You have sound travelling through a gas. That's what I'm doing here, talking. Travelling through the air. You have sound travelling in water. You can create sound cymatics in water. Sound. But it's now the atoms moving in space. Molecules moving in space. But once it becomes a liquid, that's in water, it now behaves exactly the same as the ether. But water will become a solid. Solid is becoming static. And if it goes into a crystal is perfect geometry. It's in its lowest energy state. Lowest material energy is a crystal. Its highest level of entropy. It's locked in this geometry. Now sound will vibrate in a crystal. The whole crystal will resonate. It will amplify the sound. And sound travels faster the higher the density. So in a crystal, very high, very fast travelling of sound. So this is the secret to creating a disturbance in the ether. And remember, energy is a disturbance of the ether. So when we create sound in all these different ways, we're creating a disturbance of the ether. And if we can create it with electricity, with plasma, with crystals, now we're moving towards free energy. This is the way you create free energy, a permanent vibrating potential, a permanent sound source. And you have to vibrate that sound in a particular way to release some energy and harvest that energy. But we do it in ourselves, chanting. When you chant, you're creating a resonant vibration. You're creating a geometry, a cymatic inside your body, inside your soul. See, I'm not just chanting, I'm trying to feel the resonance in my body. I'm feeling it. And you just play around, create different shapes with your mouth, hold different body postures, try and feel it vibrating in your chest. You get the sound to propagate through your body and create a nice geometry. It builds up energy. It's a real effect. And we can all do this. So I'm going to talk more and more about this. Well, I hope this gave a little introduction. The universe is sound, or rather the manifestation of the universe is sound. But the ether is silence, stillness. From silence and stillness, static, you need to create a disturbance, a potential. Now that potential is also static, and you can release that potential in one go. Now that's still not sound. That would just be the ether releasing itself, pure fluid propagation. But if you create a vibrating potential, you'll create a moving, a dynamic release of that potential. Now you are creating a frequency. But you must create the frequency. The only thing that will create a frequency is consciousness, a soul. It's creative. You must create it. This is very deep. The universe is created, or the manifestation of the universe is created by a disturbance. The only thing Again, very deep. The only thing that creates a disturbance in the ether is consciousness, thought energy, a soul. And thought energy is intention. When intention focuses inwards, it focuses into etheric energy. We do this with intention. Etheric energy, if focused enough, becomes light energy. Light energy, if focused enough, will become electricity. I'll get a spark of electricity. If focused enough, it will become plasma. I'll have a ball of plasma. If focused enough, it will condense into an atom. I have created matter. All done by consciousness, intention. But of course, I'm talking about primordial consciousness. We souls are only little bubbles of consciousness. We have to connect to the primordial consciousness to get more power. So I hope this made sense. Again, thank you so much for your time listening to me. Please do leave any questions or comments, and I look forward to seeing you in any of these other videos here.